Hey, this is Shaun with the Atlanta Tennis Podcast, powered by GoTennis. Check out our calendar of Metro Atlanta tennis events at letsgotennis.com, and be sure to register for the Go Tennis Fall Festival coming up on November 9th at James Creek Tennis Center. It's going to be awesome. Today, this is the official view with Hall of Fame coach and tournament official Dave Matthews. Today, we are continuing the discussion about cheating, but today's topic is from the parent's point of view. The way a good tennis coach teaches your kids is helping them really for more than tennis, Dave. So you've got a recent interaction with a parent. Do you want to start there?
Sure. Recent, last night. Yeah. Just, teaching on the court. We got some, I think they're beginner / intermediate, 12 and under. Yeah, they're 12 and unders. And, I thought about it also from the stage of even 10 and unders with 10 and under lines. There's lots of lines out on the court. Ours happen to be a blue inside surface, green around the outside of the court. And then our 10 and under lines are a different shade of blue so that they're not so distracting for the adult players and things like that. But, and that's usually the way it is. Usually it's like the inside of the court might be green and the 10 and under lines are a different shade of green, something like that. So that's all done in a good effort to keep things from colliding too much. But no matter what age, at the beginner intermediate level, you're always trying to, make them aware of what lines they're using, depending on the age. And then, when you're playing, and like we, at the end of our sessions, hour and a half sessions, a lot of them will, like the last 10 or 15 minutes, we'll play like doubles champs or something like that, where you've got two on a court. If you make an error, you go to the back of the line really quick. If you win two in a row, you come over and take the champ spot. Pretty simple game. But there always comes up a part of the game where the kids are having to learn to not only run and track the ball and hit it over, which is hard enough on its own, but now they've got to watch the ball bounce, which they should be kind of doing. But, it's all a big, I guess a big hill or what you call it, not an event, but a big journey to learn to do all this at the same time and coordinate all of our coordinated and non-coordinated body parts to get all this done in a very short time frame. Because it is, even at the beginner level, for them, it is a ginormous, amount of things you got to do. So, they're running over to hit a ball, and I look, and I'm looking at the line right down the line from me. I'm on the side of the court, and there's a ball that lands, 4 inches out, 5 inches out, very noticeable for me and you and everybody else. But for that kid, the first thing and priority on their mind is go whack it. Why I got to watch it hit the ground? Well, because if it's outside the boundaries, you just got to say that magical word, OUT, out, and you win the point. And you don't have to hit it anymore, but you could hit it over if they're serving. But that's another thought process. So, this little girl goes over and she whacks it back, and they play the point out. And I heard somebody in the back of the line say, that was your point. And I was like, after the point's over, I'm like, yes, it was. But she didn't call it before she hit it. So after she hits it, that enables her to basically saying, I'm playing it. I couldn't see it in or out, so we're playing, and and I go on. So then I explained to them the importance of being honest and fair. And if you can't, and there will be times when you can't call the ball, it's moving so fast, because it will get a lot faster as they get better. And when that happens, we all go down that journey inside mentally of, man, I feel like I'm cheating myself. I'm making the court bigger. But I can honestly tell you that if in your heart you're giving it your best to, number one, hit the ball back over the net, you're going to play some balls that were just out. And if you're second guessing yourself as you hit it, you're not going to hit it as effectively as if you were 100% trying and not worrying so much about the line call. You will hit that ball back because you're in position already. You're probably going to make 90% of them, in whatever fashion you pick to hit it. And yeah, you'll learn in time a little better how to judge the flight of the ball, the angles and things like that. And you'll also learn that as the ball bounces, even as quick as that is, you can literally start to make contact and still blurt that out call. As long as the result is not headed towards the net or whatever side of the court you're hitting it towards, you're probably going to be able to call it, later than you think. But still, it's a quick decision. And I think the quick decision part is what most kids blunder on, is that in the beginning phase, it really isn't that quick, but that's to us. But to them, it's like a flash. So, this parent came up to me after the lesson was over, and he says, "Hey, I just want to, I want to commend you, because not too many people talk to their kids about being fair and honest and doing the right thing in the heat of battle." And I said, well, it is like you just said a while ago. It's, to me, much bigger than just a line call. It's about honesty, not only to your opponent, but to yourself, that you're giving it 110%, no matter in or out. You're giving it 110%. And if you miss a call, you miss a call. Just keep on trudging. You're going to be fine. But, we all are in that, and we've been in that phase for a long time where, I lost the match 6-4, and this one line call. No, I'm sorry. You played 10 games, probably 70, 80 points for that one set, one line call. And now the situation of the call, yes, that is a bad timing and situation. But you could have won that game 40-love and you'd have said nothing about a line call because there wouldn't have been one. So it's all hindsight, but the honesty and integrity of what you're doing does matter, because that is the habit you either create or you don't create. And if you don't create it, like we were saying, we were chatting a few seconds ago, it becomes a very lonely world out there when you can't find somebody to play tennis with, because the label you have is you're an unfair player. And it happens. It happens. Don't fool yourself. So,
and these kids are learning from the coach. And I love the fact that the parent was clear on being thankful. Said, "Hey, coach, thank you so much. I get it a lot as well, because I deal with kids in a way that not a lot of parents can."
That's right.
Certainly teachers don't treat the kids this way. We have to placate the children so much these days.
Right.
But for us, we get a little bit of, no, knock it off. Stop acting like that. And
Right.
get a chance to look at them and say, the ball bounced here. You were wrong. Sorry, I missed the call. Tell them it's okay.
Right.
Everybody misses call. But we get a chance to let them know, no, you screwed up. You're wrong. Here it is, without having to be too nice about it. But I like the fact that the parent appreciated how you dealt with it. And in this case, the kids, and I remind the kids all the time, they hit the ball, and I get that whole like, but she's already hit it. She can't call it out. And I stop them and I say, she can call it out whenever she feels like it.
Right.
I don't care if that ball's already on its way.
Right.
The rule is I can call it out whenever I want. Now,
Right.
there's an etiquette about it, which
Right.
is I will attempt to call it out as quickly as I can, which means as soon as I am certain.
Sure. And like we were saying, you gotta kind of take it in context. When we're talking about the kids, we're talking about coaching at this point with this conversation is, this ball has a lot of time on it. It's bouncing, it's coming up, it's coming down, and then they hit it, and I think it was out. That that all in itself is a monstrous learning process. And to add in that now you got to open your mouth and say that out word in that process somewhere, it's like teaching them to learn a 3-letter word and going on to the 6-letter word. It's another step in the cognitive process of what we're doing. And a lot of times, parents and just adults, period, don't take into consideration that you're taking a adolescent kid A lot of the kids we're talking about are, 12 and under. Some of them are even younger than that, 10 and 8 and under. You're taking them from a place where one simple task is hard enough, and you're throwing 3 and 4 at them at one time. And that's a ton. So step back and give them a little time to process this, seeing it and listening to it. It all gets thrown in there, but you got to give it time to make sense. And it takes time.
Yeah, and it's a lot to learn. We talk about tennis having a steep learning curve. Recently, we've talked about tiebreakers and how complicated they can be. And the learning curve of getting into it, just hitting the ball is one thing, but then you got to call your own lines. Other sports, I kick the ball into the thing or I throw the ball into the thing, and an adult says yes or no, right? But here in tennis, this is a different world. You have to be out there on your own. You have to know whether or not it was in, know whether or not it was out. You've got to be confident enough. I have a girl recently, she's so excited when she gets to call a ball out that sometimes she just picks one and decides out, and it's in call it the middle of the court. It's just way in. And she's excited about the idea that she has the power to control the end result of the point. And we have to have that conversation again. But I don't consider that cheating. I consider that ignorance, and not in a bad way. It's just they don't know. They're learning what's in or out. I have to hit a ball way out and wait, and they go, "Oh wait, that was out. That's my point, right?" And it's cute at that age. But there's also sometimes a parent sitting on the sideline, usually more often than not, the parent wondering why the kid didn't call it out.
That's right.
My parents went through that with me. So I was about 14 years old and I got glasses and I went, "Oh, the lines aren't 3 feet wide. I didn't know that." And so we eventually get to the point that we get better at it. Now, it's the intent that I like to talk about, because it's the intent of the parent to say, "Thank you, coach, for teaching my child a little bit more about right and wrong, a little bit more about getting along with their peers and how to manage a play scenario. Thank you, coach, for that. I will back you up, and I will make sure that my child handles this fairly," as opposed to the other parent.
Sure. Well, it's like we were talking about several episodes back, about, getting the parents on the same page. And that's part of picking a coach for you or a teacher for your son or daughter. Is you want to get the whatever sport or discipline, whatever they're learning, you want to get that taught there, but you also want to surround your kids with like manners or mannerisms or characters that you identify with. Because otherwise, at 10, 12, 13, 14 years old, somewhere in that little process, girls are a little different than boys, they start putting on the parental block ears, and you need somebody to keep echoing what you've been saying until they're 18. Because it don't sink in after about 13, 14. And we've had that discussion about ethics and, work ethics and things like that. You better get those taught to your kid early, because after certain ages, they ain't learning it. They're just going to keep masking it.
Well, and that's where sport helps, because it teaches that extra work ethic. And I remember my struggle, as I use myself as the example, is I realized I would work for hours, weeks, months at tennis. It was a thing I loved working at, but you put me in school, I didn't want to do it. So the difference was I had to be interested in it. So there also has to be the scenario. I think you made a comment recently about taking it the mundane and and pushing through that and being able to get to the next phase, keeping it interesting. Because for someone like me, the creative type that needs something interesting to keep me interested, I can't just follow the pattern and keep doing it. I'll give it up. I'll get bored. But for me, the cheating that I was doing was cheating myself. I was calling balls in that were out, which is why my parents realized it must be a vision problem, because I was competitive enough not to be doing that intentionally. I wasn't just being a nice guy and calling anything close. So what's the moral of the story here? You had the parent come in and say, "Thank you, coach," which is a great feeling, by the way.
Absolutely.
I'd say 7 out of 10 times it's usually a parent coming in wanting something unreasonable. Like, when can my kid play? And I have to say, "I'm sorry, dear, he's 4."
Right.
And they want something unreasonable, or they want to talk about why or how you're doing certain things. In this case, you got a compliment. Thank you for treating my child this way and teaching them beyond just line calling. So what's the moral of the story here today?
Well, it's kind of like the meme I saw, where the professor's writing the 10 problems on the board, nine times tables. He writes them down. He writes the last one wrong on purpose, and everybody laughs. And the moral of the story is the one little problem that somebody gets wrong is not the sum of the whole nutshell of what was taught. And you need to think a little bit before kind of like I always taught you guys, think a little bit before you say something, because the repercussions, like with line calls, can last a long time. And in this case, the parent sat there, occasionally with this group, there's 4 or 5 parents up there. I've got about 8 kids in the class. There might be a couple of them not there, but most of them are just attentive. They're just listening. They're not clapping overly. They'll clap occasionally when a kid hits a ball, and I'll make some comment like, "Oh, the crowd goes crazy," and they love it. They love it. Oh my God, it's almost now they're engaged more than the kid, but that gets the kid more involved too. So, the sum of the nutshell is just make sure that before you go approaching the coach, think about the sum of the whole lesson. And if it was a very, a good lesson, they all were pretty attentive. Nobody got whacked with a racket, things like that. It's a win, because there's so much to learn out there. You got to be careful. You're not critical of one thing and missing the other 7 that were also there.
I like that a lot. Thank you so much. This has been The Official View with Hall of Fame coach and tournament official Dave Matthews. Thank you, sir. We'll see you next week.
Sir. Have a good day.